With the electric, utility, and other basic services, we created Restore, a unique project to help those in need under emergency circumstances. It's provided over $1 million in grants to date, which are never owed back in any circumstances from the city standpoint or any other standpoint. Along with, in Restore, restructuring long-standing debt of customers as of November 12, 2023, to the tune of 7,200 delinquent accounts into payment arrangements totaling over $7.8 million, folks. People at home don't know how much the utility's been affected. And maybe giving those numbers has no meaning to anybody because they don't know what to measure that against. We'll be providing you municipal utility basics over the next few weeks, and you'll understand how big a number that is. Lots of those terms were 6 and 12 months amortizations to help and assist families. Except for Restore, meaning had it not been put into place, all of those disconnects for non-payment would have been due in the spring of 2023. I didn't create this. My team did create this. This was something we walked into and inherited 100%. Not 99, not 99.9, 100%. We'll have more on that, but it's important to note that Restore was designed to recognize and help and assist people because we recognize, hey, there are lots of issues with the city. We're going to assign value to contributing to help people because the last thing we want to do is bankrupt a family or make it where you could never collect anyway. From a financing standpoint, that would have been a dumb move for the city. But the things being said about Restore and the misinformation out there, scandalous, scurrilous, some of it just silly. The problem is it caused a lot of people who needed Restore not to get it. And it was available and would have helped them. And that is a shame. And anybody responsible for doing that to somebody on fixed income or somebody that needed it, that's a shame on you. $7,200 delinquent accounts, $7.8 million. So that ordinance was introduced and it passed 1 week into office. It was introduced by unanimous consent before I came into office. On that day a year ago when I was sworn in, a year ago yesterday when I was sworn into office, the past due balances, those balances extending beyond a net 30 days, which anywhere else is due for a cutoff, including here, were $9.05 million across 7,400 accounts. That's 26,000 account holders we have. That means 28% of all accounts. Anybody who runs a business, imagine that number, 28%. That statistic represented a fatal crisis to the AUS, to the utility system. The day I was sworn in a year ago yesterday, the total receivables in the utility were $16 million. This is folly. It has to be fixed. And Restore was designed to help. And the use of something that comes from the idea of grace and assistance and helping people to hurt folks is again, not only shameful, it's dangerous to the city. It represents additional existential crises and threats to our city. As of November 12, 2023, delinquent ratepayers owed the AUS $4.864 million, plus about $500,000 in what I would call current past due, so 30 or so or under. Restore works and helps people willing to work with the city. Stop listening to the misinformation. It's being spread and designed to take advantage of paying ratepayers by chronic non-payers. Don't blame the fix for the problem. Independent auditing shows the AUS net position decreased $10.5 million because of prior mismanagement. Again, not a lick of it occurred under this administration. In contrast, the last few audits I had leaving being mayor were outstanding, including a perfect audit with not one finding. I didn't have material ones or charter violations, but there would always be a finding here and there about, I can remember the one that drove us crazy was there was not a receipt for some hay purchased at the zoo, which was found later and still made the finding. I thought that was a ridiculous thing to put in a finding for a $200 million operation, but that's how strict it was in the way we looked at it. We retained again and received, again received very good bond rating assessments, including an upgraded bond rating to AA, a huge testament to the actual financial choices we made with the utility as a backstop. We received national top budgeting awards every year. We added to retained earnings for real, not gimmicky accounting where we're robbing Peter to say Paul is fine. You can't take from one area of the city to backstop another area and say, oh, it's all great, when the area from which you take is broke. That doesn't work in any accounting. You can do any gimmick you want, but when the audit comes, it's going to find it, and it did. The utility is not your enemy. It is the champion of services this city at our size could never provide without it. Buses, etc. We would never be able to do those things. And we do that all without having raised the electric utility rate. Here's a hard fact, 1986. You tell me if your bread, your milk, your gasoline, anything else you've done has stayed at 1986 rates. That's what the city receives money from, the rate portion. We're going to go over all of that in here and get everybody on the same page. The claims we make are audited by third parties. They can be attacked, assailed, anything anybody wants, but come with your proof because we'll have ours. We got to get past this, ladies and gentlemen. We got to get on the same page. The payments that were outstanding in the AUS have to be collected. There were millions of dollars. We cannot let the utility fail. We cannot do that. Some of the things I hear that you hear, like the utility is half the city budget, the utility, just none of those are true. We'll be glad to take every rumor that I've been personally writing at every meeting, which I do, sitting right back there, write it down when I hear it. Someone's at the mic, probably sever out a little of the stuff that matters less, get to the heart of it, and I write it down, and I've written them all down. The emails, everything that comes to the city. Anybody's account that I hear or makes it to me, we check it. Like many council members, I have yet to see when someone has a complaint that there wasn't a huge past due part. We'll have some new ways to help combat that with community partners who want to work with us, honestly and truthfully next year. We always work. It's all part of Restore. I want to just end on that utility part because it's tough, but people need to know how hard we're working to help you on it. If the city's utility were to fail, the city is right behind it. The things people want to see happen are right behind it. And people say things like, well, why have a Winterfed if people need help on their utilities? Well, the Winterfed is paid by a choice the taxpayers made to pass a recreation tax to dedicate it to those activities. After all, other taxpayers want to go to the Winterfed. They don't give me permission to take their tax money and give it to someone else for their utility bill. That's actually illegal. So think about it. Just think through the process of what we're having to do to stand up and make that work. That doesn't mean we're not figuring out through ingenuity in other ways like we did with Restore, recognizing the need of our citizens, recognizing those people at risk, recognizing vulnerable communities that need it. But vulnerable communities, fixed income communities, and at-risk folks are not the same thing, and we're always going to stand and come up with ways to help them, as chronic non-payers giving misinformation and abusing all of you. And while that may sound harsh, it is my job to make sure I do the homework to distinguish between the two. To distinguish between the two. So, we got to stop the madness. We can't have some ratepayers pay for other ratepayers without their permission. There are ways to do things that help. We did a huge one already. We'll do more. But you got to get out of the idea that paying a utility bill is an option. It's not an option in any other city. So it can't be an option in ours.